Hello and welcome to my channel. This is Lemon Tree Tarot Readings, and I'm Mac. It's nice to meet you. Now, if you're new here, this is our first time meeting, and if you're returning, maybe you've seen a couple of my tarot videos, I'm really glad you are here and that you're back. So, today, I am filming a video for the concept of sharing my spiritual journey. Now, I have another channel that I've done this on, but as you evolve and expand, you show up differently, right? As I was going through these things, sometimes I didn't know how to handle it. Sometimes I acted a little out of character. So, I created this channel, I created this channel to be able to provide readings without that energy that the me that I used to be. It's a heavy subject, so I'm smoking a cigarette, I'm sorry. But then again, I'm not, because it is what it is. Now I would imagine, overall, that if you're here, you are on your journey, you are about to get on your journey, you are significantly, into your journey, right? Or maybe you just had, this came up in your algorithm because maybe this will help, not necessarily trigger a response, but activate your journey. Because you're probably, if you are on it, you're meant for more. More than what this matrix and what this life on a mundane level is. So my plan here is to speak on these different situations, these different moments, these different out of this world experiences I've had at different points that I keep getting this message that need to be put out there. So then if somebody is going through the same thing and because I didn't have anybody to discuss this with. So a lot of the times I had to battle myself. I mean, that's all it is a battle of self. But I had to battle myself in terms of am I going crazy? Is this just bullshit? Is this really happening? Am I seeing what I'm seeing? So I can only imagine if I went through this, that there's got to be other people that are going through the same. So that's where we're at today. That's what I'm doing here. Today I want to touch on why tarot is so important to me and how this kind of transpired to become such an important thing in my life. Now, my backstory with tarot is this. My mother did tarot when I was little. She wasn't very experienced with it. She didn't know the meanings of the cards without the book. And she would do it for family friends every once in a while. And I was told that she did that because her mother, my grandmother, did cards when she was little, and she had a very in-tune intuition. I guess she would use a Ouija board as well, and the Ouija board would work with just one person. So, obviously, we want to be like our mothers in these different ways, and she started doing cards, and then she always had them, but she just didn't do them. So, I've always been drawn to them. I've always been pulled into the concept of tarot. But I didn't start really getting into it until probably the summer of 2018 when I was dating a guy, and I had a lot of things that had happened. I'd been in a domestic violence situation that really rocked my world. My whole family moved away from where I am, which was our hometown. and I was kind of left to handle it. And if you've ever been through anything like that, it's a process to process and handle. It takes time, and a lot of the times you're in denial about the effect that it has on you, and a lot of things don't start to come up to the surface until the most inconvenient time. So I had carried my mom's cards with me for a long time and started kind of messing with them. And I had a friend back then who we were very in tune with one another. And as time went on, I ended up getting out of that relationship. My whole world fell apart again at one point, and I got with my now ex-husband. She was very smart. She was very in tune with the cards. And at one point, she had introduced me to the reader, Nicole Froelich, okay? And I'd watch her every 2 weeks, and I didn't watch anybody else. And I kept relating all these readings to like my love life and this and that. Like I just didn't, I had no idea the bigger picture of everything that tarot is. Well, with time, I started checking out other readers, and I started to hear their readings that were touching on, my current relationship, and I felt really unfulfilled at that point. Something was lacking, but something was lacking from the very beginning. I can't say that there wasn't. There was definitely I felt there was a wall up with my ex. But he told me that he loved me and that I was his world, but you can just feel it. So I started to watch these readings, and they correlated with my life. And I could feel them, they resonated in ways that you just know that they're talking to you. It's a phenomena, really. But is it? Because it's just reading energy. So I started acquiring cards. And I didn't really get into it until me and my husband split. Go our separate ways, and I'm like jumping into it full force. I want to know the cards. I want to know this. I want to know that. I'm going to do this. I wanted to do the YouTube thing. Time. Took a lot of time for me to know each card's meaning. Some other things happened, marriage, divorce types of things, in terms of trying to heal and this and that. And I just didn't have the knowledge that I have now in those points, which very well so. I had to learn it. My mother ends up moving in with me at one point, and with that, I was able to kind of dive deeper into these storylines. And as I was diving deeper, you get these visions almost. You get these downloads of how these storylines resonate in your life. And I was able to decipher, because it would talk about 3D, right here, right now, situations. And then it would talk about, it was never the Taurus in your life. It was always the Hierophant. And it boils down to, I had this epiphany that there are different worlds. And the world that most of the time they're speaking on in this Hierophant type of fairy tale, almost like soap opera storyline, I believe it to be base reality, honestly. And then from base reality, things happen, choices are made, things trickle down the system, the universal, because you make a decision, you make a choice, a parallel world of the opposite decision is spawned, and then you walk through the doorway of the decision you made. Okay, and that's the life you're living right now, but there's still another world that's spawned. So most of us, pretty much everybody, we walk around with millions of universes around us. within us of these opposite decisions of the ones we make. So there's good and there's bad. And they are part of the system that receives this ripple effect. Depending on where you're at in the lineup, depends on how intense that ripple will be. And if you take the time to really start observing what's going on in your reality, what's going on in your, in your home, in your life, in your work situation, you will see how these storylines match up to these different situations or coincidences that happen in your life. Most of the time, we just walk through life blindly, not having any idea what is going on. That the fact that this is even possible, that our choices and decisions carry such impact on our lives. So I started, once I could put that together, and now, don't get me wrong, this took me time for my mind to accept this. Because even though I knew it, even though you have those epiphany moments, your shadow comes into play and contradicts it, doesn't want it to be real because it wants to protect you in a sense. Ego as well. So I had to battle back and forth. Is this real? Is this not real? Is this real? Is this not real? So long. Because I was being sold a story from my ex. But there was his story and my story in the 3D, and then there was what happened in base reality, right? And I had somebody that was very, very silver-tongued and would look me right in my eyes and lie to me. With this intention of loving me. So it was hard to process because all I wanted to do was be loved. All I wanted was him. All I wanted was him. And during this whole separation / reconciliation, he was demonstrating him, he was showing up in ways that he hadn't before, very much more emotionally available, and we'll put it like that. So I wanted to believe him. And there were so many times where I actively made the choice to believe him, but yet not thinking about the consequence of that. So I would go through all these moments, all these moons, right? Because you work with the moon, of manifesting, feeling this energy build up, and then starting to understand how the energy builds up, right? And how on the moon you release that energy out into the universe. And every time, no joke, full moon energy or new moon, he would be here and we would be intimate. And I kept getting this storyline that somebody's doing moon magic. Somebody's doing moon magic. Well, he's not actively out there doing moon magic. He's not out there under the moon, doing ritual or anything. Doesn't mean he's not doing it in base reality. Because then he's here basically halting and stopping my ritual process. And through the act of intimacy, stealing that energy through my sacral chakra, through his wand. And then the story keeps lining up that he's like this Rico Suave type of warlock, at the base reality, and that's how he works. That's how he moves, and his family's all tied into it too. Then you have this situation where I can see energy, and I want to leave this story for another day, but I can see energy. I can see when it shows up in a room. I can see, it's not like I don't see people, but I see bodies. People walk in. I don't see descriptive features on them to know exactly who they are. It takes a little bit of time for that. And then I have that on top of it. And at nighttime, things are coming in my room. No joke. I had so many videos, but I just would delete them because I knew I'd film more the next night. But I wanted to prove that these things were happening because he would then turn around and act like I was crazy for speaking on this. So I spent many nights up trying to prove this via video, and then it was just very intense. It was very, very, very intense. I can tell you that the tarot storylines have all even if they're not to the T, like this is what happens, but sometimes they are. And with that, I've been able to prepare better in terms of manifesting and seeing people, because I can see when people lie to me now. And I could feel it back then. I just didn't want to believe it. But if you're able to understand these readings and even do them for yourself, because then when I'm doing my own cards, I'm like, it's the same cards that are popping up for me that are on these readings, and it's the same nudgings that I'm getting internally about the storyline, like how you decipher the cards for my own cards. It all showed up. It all proved itself. It's all real. I heard somebody say, tarot doesn't lie, people lie. And I've had to really, really take that in, because it's hard to admit that to yourself. It's hard to admit that about the people that you love, right? So I'm gonna end it here on this one. I plan on doing more, and these are just gonna be stories that I've experienced. So if it resonated, if you are interested, intrigued, hopefully I'll see you in the next one. And until then, stay safe, stay prayed up, protected, because you are. If you're here, you're divinely guided, highly favored. No weapon formed against you shall prosper. Just remember that. Till next time, y'all.